All right, we are live. Welcome in, everybody. Oh man, is it good to be back? I'm just going to do a little adjusting here. Got some shadows that I don't really like a whole lot going on, so I'm going to try to fix that a little bit. Fix a little bit. Not great, but not terrible. It's okay. We'll figure it out. Oh, it's lines in my thing. Oh, my thing came undone a little bit. That's what it is. Okay. Thought it was shadows. Oh, there we go. It's a little bit better. All right. Ignore that. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. This is episode 126 of the Kalibrated live show. I thank you guys so much for being patient in my absence. Not that you even noticed I was gone, but I was with family over Christmas. It was awesome. We got all of our family in one place. All of the kids live in separate areas now. Parents live in separate areas. So it was nice to get everybody together. I hope all of you had an amazing holiday season. If you are a Orthodox Christian, your Christmas is yet to come. Happy Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to you. If your Christmas is yet to come, happy holidays to everybody. And welcome to the final stream of 2024. It has been a crazy year. My channel has grown significantly. My Twitter page has grown significantly. Everything revolving around Kalibrated has enhanced, become better, more experienced, more mature, I would say. And I really appreciate all of you being a part of that journey with me. Here is to 2025. Everybody begin their 2025 arc. Make yourselves better. And yeah. We got a lot to talk about, man. We got 8 days of talking to do. So we're going to go ahead and get into that. It is hotter than goodness gracious in here. So I'm going to open up a window real fast just to cool it off. We'll see if that helps any. I'm sweating. I just got back from the gym, guys, so I'm like warm and it's a mess. So put up with that, will you, for a second. Let me go ahead and put my live stream on. If everybody wants to put where they're from right now, go ahead and do that. Retweeting my live streams. Oh man, it is hot in this room, guys. Hold on, I gotta turn on a fan. We're going to get into it. Don't worry. We got a long live stream, so. Okay. I'm sorry. Look at this. I'm dying, dude. It is hot as hell in my room right now. All right, guys. We have so much to talk about. The front lines are moving like crazy. Let's just go ahead and get into the updates. This is already starting off kind of rough, so here we go. Okay. All right, guys. We have an absolute ton to talk about. Let me see where you guys are from here. New Jersey, Austria, nice. Palm Beach, nice, guys. Nice. Czech Republic. I'm Dutch and I live in Budapest. Sweet. Whew, man. I'm sorry, guys. It is hot in this room, so I'm just going to be a mess down here. Had a leg day today. Absolutely killed it. Felt awesome. Let's zoom out and get just an overall picture of what's going on here. I want to express that the title of this live stream, obviously the floodgates are open. You're going to see exactly what I'm talking about here. The Ukrainians are now in the southern Donetsk region and in the Kursk region in a very, very tight situation. Nothing is going particularly well for them. And it is the new year for some of you. I'm sorry. Happy New Year if it is your new year. All right. But as you can see, The Russians are advancing. This is 8 days of Russian gains across the map. There are some pretty important advances that are being made. An important advance in Donetsk, an important advance in Chasiv Yar, an advance in Seversk, where we don't see a lot of advances, advance in the the Zhibiets River region, and an advance in the Oskol River region. We also have an advance in the Kursk region, which is where we will start today, and I will begin talking about what is going on here. Let's see. Donetsk, southernmost suburb. Yes, we are going to talk about that. Oh, I said southernmost. It's the westernmost, isn't it? Damn it. I was in a rush when I was writing that one. Damn it. All right, here we go. So the Russian armed forces have advanced along the Pesel River here, pushing into Makhanovka and Dormituvka. This puts Zdruzhda in a very, very difficult position. There are FPV drones that are now operating over the R200 highway that runs into Zdruzhda. You can see here that the Russians are now within 10 kilometers of the highway for sure. Within 5 kilometers of the center, the city center, which is the main defensive area for the Ukrainians in this region, and the actual funnel that the Ukrainians have to take in to the Kursk region is now less than 10 miles or 16 kilometers across. So the entire space that the Ukrainians are fitting into now in this region is extremely tight. They're taking losses coming in and out, and it's just not. It's not a good situation. It's getting really, really bad, right? So when we step back and look at what this has accomplished, for the Ukrainians, almost nothing. We're getting reports now. I think it was the New York Times was talking about how the Kursk region was supposed to pull Russian troops from the east of the country to this part of Kursk to defend the Russian territory. The Russians didn't do that. They just stopped the Ukrainians with what they had available. Worked out pretty well. The Ukrainians are now stuck in this region. They did not reach what I consider their primary objective, which is the nuclear power plant up in Logov. And now they are just stuck in this little pocket that doesn't measure more than, 10 miles across, 10 miles, from the center, it's 16 kilometers in any direction it's the radius of this circle. So this is a very, very tight pocket. The Ukrainians have lost an incredible amount of manpower here. And specifically how I know they're losing a lot of manpower is the way that the Ukrainian resources are talking about the Kursk region. They're now talking about how the 810th Marine Brigade has been wiped out again. That has already happened once. So Russian necromancy at work, Schrodinger's Russians, they're all dead, but they're all there at the same time. Apparently hundreds of thousands of North Koreans have died. That's a joke. I think the Western numbers are saying 1,000 North Koreans have now died in the Kursk region. Who knows? I still have yet to see any tangible proof. A lot of the videos that we're seeing are fakes. So, I don't really know what to think about that. I'm not saying that there aren't North Koreans. I think it would be valuable at this time for North Korea to help in this area. It goes along with their strategic partnership agreements. And the North Koreans are now being very aggressive with their posturing. They're helping Russia a lot with artillery and missile sales, I would say. And in return, they're getting their agricultural needs met, their technological needs met, their medical needs met. North Korea is rapidly catching up to the rest of the world now that the sanctions regime doesn't matter because Russia can trade openly with them, right? And North Korea is now looking to get their very out-of-date army more experience. I think this is a smart thing to do. And I wouldn't doubt that there are North Koreans potentially in the Kursk region because it's goes fully in hand with what the agreement between North Korea and Russia states, right? They're allowed to help Russia, and Russia's allowed to help Korea on their sovereign territory, whatever. So it's not that I don't know. It's not that I'm saying that there are no Ukrainians in this area. That's a ridiculous claim. Everybody's talking about it. There's always a chance that there are Ukrainians participating. Is it making any difference? No. If it wasn't those Ukrainians, it would just be Russians that are reserves. You know, it would be the exact same thing, except they would be Russian instead of Ukrainian, or I'm sorry, North Korean. And, you know, whether it's happening or not, it doesn't make a difference to what the outcome is going to be here. And so, you know, you invade Russia and their strategic partners come to help them. That's what happened. If everything that the West is saying is correct, that is exactly what happened. And the Ukrainians are going to get beat by North Koreans. North Koreans are going to gain valuable battlefield experience. Their commanders that are there, you know, if there are troops, there are commanders there present, watching, learning. And this is just helping them bring back tools to North Korea that's going to make North Korea a more formidable adversary on the Korean Peninsula. So we will see this, you know, Kuplek says there are no North Koreans in Kursk. That's potentially possible, right? There might not be North Koreans in Kursk, but to outright deny it without, I mean, you don't have any counter evidence for that. So you're just making a claim the same as anybody making a claim that there are North Koreans there without tangible evidence. And no, pictures of Asian people is not evidence. Evidence it would be very, very clear, cut and dry. We wouldn't be able to argue about it. It's just, it is what it is. So yeah, that's the situation in Kursk. Nothing is going the Ukrainians' way up here. And as this gets tighter and tighter, we will likely see the Ukrainians need to pull out of this area, as there's no real strategic objective here. But I do think they're just trying to hold on for some sort of leverage in a potential negotiation. I don't think negotiations are going to happen. We're actually going to talk about this in depth in a little bit because we have some statements from both sides about how negotiating is going and how the talks are proceeding. And as of right now, I see no chance of that happening. And that's what I kind of talked about. U.S. foreign policy can't change, right? There are geostrategic interests that must be upheld. And the Biden administration has made Ukraine a geostrategic interest and a major problem for Trump if he just lets it go and it turns into a disaster, right? Trump doesn't want an Afghanistan situation on his hands. That's what he's trying to avoid. All right. Moving down to the Oskal River region, Russian forces have advanced into Zarazove and have captured the entirety of the village, moving along the highway here, the R79 south towards Borova. Borova is the next major target. You can see that the Russians are advancing, and they have now pushed onto this road down here, which will lead them also to Borova. So this is a goal. This is a major point for the Ukrainians in this region, staging and logistics. So the Russians need to capture this to then force down further towards Liman and, you know, this entire area right here. All right. Okay, so Russian forces have advanced across these reservoirs here that run along the Zhibyets River. They have captured the village of Ivanivka on the opposite bank. They have also advanced through Terney and through this tree line down here where there are Ukrainian fortifications. So again, this pocket right here is getting tighter and tighter. I doubt that there are very many Ukrainians in this area left at all, and maybe a skeleton crew just holding back the Russians for as long as possible. But the Russians will soon level out the front along this reservoir, and they have already crossed here to the north, so they already have a bridgehead. All right. Remember, guys, you can ask questions. If you do it with super chats, I will be able to just see them and throw them up, and I'll go through some questions at the end as well. All right. We're down here in the Seversk area. Russian forces have advanced along this hill area right here. I don't know what it would exactly be called. You can see that there are trench networks throughout this area. So they have moved into these trenches here. This is a major fortification in this area, defending Seversk, defending these open fields. Once this is captured, the Ukrainians are going to have to take a major step back here towards Seversk, and we may see the pressure start to mount in this direction again. Although I don't have very high hopes, just because the Russians have had such a strong struggle here. The Ukrainians have been very effective in their defense. So I would be surprised if we saw fast movements, but I wouldn't be surprised if movement started in this direction more seriously. It just depends on how active the Russians are trying to be. All right, in Chasiv Yar, in the northernmost suburb here, the Russian forces have advanced through about half of it. They've entered into this warehouse facility area right here. Don't exactly know what that would be called. Believe, yeah, it just looks like warehouses. And this is particularly bad because it now puts the this area into sort of a semi-encirclement. As you can see, there is a big reservoir here. So the Ukrainians now have to come through this area alone to reach the refractory plant here, which, by the way, the Ukrainians did recapture with assaults. It is now probably mostly in the gray zone, but I'm going to leave it blue until I have counter evidence. All right, moving down into Donetsk, we have some major advancements here. The Russians have advanced up along both sides of this territorial here. The territorial is likely in the gray zone now. The battle for Donetsk is pretty much over, guys. The Ukrainians lost their fortifications that they had down in this area, or are about to lose even more of them. So that when this area falls, basically all of Donetsk is just not very defensible anymore, except potentially this industrial facility. But the Russians are likely already operating on the grounds of the industrial facility. So, you know, the battle for Donetsk is coming to its end, and the battle for, Konstantinivka is going to start here shortly, as both the battle for Chasiv Yar and the battle of Donetsk come to a close. Everything is kind of wrapping up. There's a bunch of different cities that are getting very close to being captured. Chasiv Yar, Donetsk, and we'll see some down south that have actually been captured. A small Russian advance here, but an important one towards the ring road here. Remember, this ring road is sort of a lifeline between Konstantinivka and Pokrovsk, although the Ukrainians are probably not using it a ton. If the Russians can gain access to it, it's going to make their lives easier heading north and heading down to Minhorod from the east, I guess you would say. Kind of looks like down, but it's more eastern. All right. Okay, moving over to the Pokrovsk area, we've seen a pretty significant activation in this region, and we'll start down here. The Russians have crossed this Solony River into Lizivka, but most importantly into the fortified line that runs just behind Lizivka here along the Solony River. Once this fortification is captured, the entire southern flank of Pokrovsk is basically exposed, and the Russians will likely start the battle for Pokrovsk very soon, as the Ukrainians look much, much weaker. Week to week, the Ukrainians are just taking bigger steps back, losing bigger chunks, and losing vital defensive areas without much of a fight, which is a huge red flag. All right. Question: why does Ukraine love pockets? They don't love pockets; they despise them, but they have to sit in them because of PR. They hate retreats more than they hate pockets. All right, which tells you what they think about their population and their army. The Russian forces have captured all of Peshani, including this mine facility over here. Pretty big deal, as it will allow for staging into these southern villages that are connected to Pokrovsk. Russian forces have also advanced into these tree lines and captured Bavoke, just south of Kotelin. This is important because moving into this area is first and foremost going to cut one of the highways that runs to Propisnaya, which runs to Zaporozhye or Povrad, and that is going to be it's going to make logistics even more difficult. I mean, the road is already not being used predominantly for logistics because the Russians are so close, and now they're subject to being struck on the E50 here, and this is like the primary route out of the city now for logistics. Dropopila is one of the major logistics hubs for Pokrovsk now, just because of ease of transport. Okay. Moving down, Russian forces have advanced into Salone. Not a big advance, but still significant as they are pushing towards Udachne, which has a large railroad, and you know the Russians love to follow railroads. So reaching Udachne would be a major objective. It would also set the Russians up to quickly enter into Dnipropetrovsk region, which would be very telling of Russia's future plans if they stop there, if they move north, if they move south, or if they just keep moving west. Time will tell. Down here, Russian forces have advanced through the fields, just basically across the board, and have entered Novovasilivka from the south, entering into these warehouse buildings. Again, just advances that shouldn't be made. I mean, this is the very tip of, or the very front of the Russian front line. Like, you know, it is the tip of the spear heading east, and this area is expanding faster than any of these areas that are at great depth and encirclements and stuff like that. And the reason for that, as I've talked about multiple times, is a weak Ukrainian defense here, poor Ukrainian logistics, and you know, just not enough manpower to fill gaps where it is needed. So the Russians continue to advance. And these aren't small fields either. These advances that you see here might look tiny, but they are 3 kilometers or so. Pushing a whole front 3 kilometers in this war is very significant. We never really get to see very much like that. We haven't seen very much like this throughout the war. So it's interesting to watch the Russians moving very quickly now. Down here, Novojelizavetivka has been captured by the Russians, as well as Ukrainica back here. Again, just moving towards the Dnipropetrovsk region. And now in multiple places, the Russians are extremely close. There is now nothing standing between the Russians and Dnipropetrovsk in this 10-kilometer stretch right here. So, you know, the Russians, if they can move through these fields, they will be able to enter Dnipropetrovsk very quickly. And, you know, these villages are hardly anything at all. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, you know, houses maybe total. And one dirt road that runs through them. So it's not like you're going to be able to defend any of these places for very long. All right. Here in Ziora, Russian forces have made just a small advance towards Slavyanka, and down to the south, just north of Kharkove, Russian forces have captured Olev Shevchenko. Again, just more towns being captured day after day. Day after day, more towns getting captured. Kharkove has been completely captured by the Russian armed forces. Unless you consider this to be Kharkove, I don't think so. I think that's outside of the town. So the entire industrial facility here has been captured, and this pocket will now begin to rapidly close, leading up to Eulakli and Constantinople. All right. What are we at? 23 minutes. Not bad. Not bad. I'm getting through these. Just north of Usempenivka, Russian forces have again begun closing the pocket. They have advanced north of the Sukilyal River and captured this major fortification here. These last fortifications are the last remaining significant lines for the Russians, or for the Ukrainians, sorry, in this entire area. There is nothing better than this. It gets dramatically worse as we get back here into Andrivka, and then it's almost basically nothing further past that point. So this was a very valuable area to hold. The Ukrainians sacrificed a ton to hold it, but in the end, Russian firepower, Russian advantage in manpower, and Russian advantage in logistics won out. The Ukrainians had to pull out, and now the situation is going to get progressively worse and escalate at a much quicker rate from here westward. All right. To the south of Constantinople, which, as I was talking about, this is the next defensive area, but the Russians are already just south and already, to the west of this. So if they can advance up into Rozliv, and then cut the two roads here, either with fire or whatever, and make logistics very difficult, the Ukrainians are going to lose these towns very fast. And then I just don't know what they're even going to be holding back here. There's very sparse cover. It's just not looking good. I don't know what the plan is, and I don't think there is a plan. I think the plan is just to hold everything for as long as humanly possible. All right. Lastly, but not leastly at all, Velika Novoselka, Russian forces have made some pretty significant advances to the west of the village. They have now physically cut the road that leads into Velika Novoselka. The only remaining logistics line runs up along the western bank of the Morkili Yali River here. And so it kind of just goes like this, up here, and then leads out. But this is terrible. This situation is absolutely atrocious for the Ukrainians. They're going to have to leave this probably in January. And again, that's going to open up the front tremendously. So you're having multiple sections of your front under extreme duress at the same time, all while trying to maintain Donetsk, the Battle of Donetsk, Chasiv Yar, trying to maintain Seversk. The floodgates are opening. I really don't know how else to explain it. The levee has broke, and the water is going to start surging now. That's really the situation we're looking at. And you can just tell. I mean, in 8 or 9 days since I was not doing live streams, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Eight villages captured? Yeah, so 8 villages have been captured in the last 8 days. And one of those villages is not a village, it's Kharkov. It's a city. This is a densely populated city. So this is a major defense node in the south that is now gone. The Ukrainians are going to have to retreat out. And yeah, it's all going to just go westward if the Russians want to. They may do the diplomatic thing and stop here, and then finish off all of the east, and then come to the table and say, hey, listen, it's not going to get any better for you. Here's our offer. Take it or leave it. We're going to continue whether you sign it, if you sign it, great, we can stop and this thing will come to an end, or we can just continue because you don't have anywhere to go. There's no greener pastures for you. And either take the deal or we're going to continue until the deal is good enough for us. If Dnipropetrovsk is entered, what are Russia's aims? Everything east of the Oskil River. I don't think you can, if the Russians enter into Dnipropetrovsk, that's entering into a new oblast. That is going to be significant for PR reasons. It's going to send a very clear message. And basically, if you are going for Dnipro and this territory right here, you are just going to push up into Poltava. You're going to take Kharkiv. You're going to take Sumy. All of these areas are going to be much easier to capture. And I just don't see. I mean, there could be, they could just barely enter, and then there could be a negotiated settlement where they leave this territory, and it makes the Russians look like they're playing ball or something. I don't know. It's up to them, but we're actually going to right now move into the next part of this conversation. While you were away, the AFU advanced in and left Zaf. I don't know if you're talking about down here in Kamansky. The Ukrainians, I actually missed this update. I just remembered when you said that. The Ukrainians did advance down into these villages, but I think the Russians have already pushed them out again. So that didn't last very long. Questions. What are your predictions for the front line on January 20th? Not much different than what you're seeing here. I think that this pocket will close by the 20th. That's like 3 weeks from now. So I think that this pocket will be closed. I think that Velika Novosilka will likely be almost at its end. I believe that the Russians will move much deeper into the pocket that I had talked about. Remember, this is where I said the Ukrainian line was going to have to end up, because they're not going to be able to hold Andriivka if the Russians compromise the north, which they have, and the south, which happened very quickly. So they're going to have to back out behind this green line and try to protect, what they can. But there's just no real good answers here. But in this yellow perimeter right here, you can see how much the Russians have moved through this area. I think they're going to move basically out to where that green line is by the 20th. Maybe not this far, but capturing Andriivka and Konstantinopol, just trying to put, or at least putting a ton of pressure on it by the 20th. I think that's very realistic. Also, when we come up here, I think that the Russians are going to make it into Kotlin very soon, and Udachny probably by the 20th. I think that that's also realistic. I think Donetsk is going to look almost complete by the 20th as well. I don't think the Ukrainians have much to defend here anymore, and I think you're going to see a withdrawal from this area soon. Chasiv Yar is moving slow, so I wouldn't count on major updates from Chasiv Yar. The Ukrainians are going to hold this. This is the single most important area on the map. The Ukrainians have made that very clear, and they're going to hold this until this will be the last place that crumbles. We may see more progress in Seversk, but again, I'm not super confident in that. It's a slow-moving area. I think we're going to see this close by the 20th, and I believe you're going to see much more progress in the direction of Borova by the 20th. This pocket may close by the 20th. I don't know why the Ukrainians are still holding this. This is ridiculous. I don't know what's happening there. And Kursk will be in a much, much worse situation by the 20th. Hopefully that answered your question. All right, here we go. Let's do this, and let's go here. So here are the words that the Trump campaign and the Putin regime have discussed. This is from The Hill. Trump, Putin advisors trade barbs heading into New Year. The year is ending with a pair of sharp messages between top advisors to Russian leader Vladimir Putin and President-elect Trump. Trump's choice for special envoy to Ukraine and Russia, retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, slammed a Russian missile and drone attack from last week. Christmas should be a time of peace, yet Ukraine was brutally attacked on Christmas Day, Kellogg wrote Wednesday on social media platform X. Oh, look at X. Launching large-scale missiles and drone attacks on both the days of the Lord's birth is wrong, except if you're Russian and then it's not that day, but that's okay. The world is closely watching actions on both sides. The U.S. is more resolved than ever to bring peace to the region, whatever that means. This is a big nothing burger statement that does nothing. Putin said in the middle of December he was ready and willing to meet with Trump if he wants it, but Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Monday rejected proposals floated by Trump's allies to end the war in Ukraine, marking a major setback in the incoming president's pledge to freeze the conflict. What did I tell you? The positions are not even, right? Trump comes with an agreement that Europe can agree to, right? Europe has agreed to it. This is the problem with the way the West negotiates. They negotiate with themselves, and then they go to negotiate with Russia. And by the time they get to Russia, that negotiating position is inconsolable with the two, right? They will never line up, and there will never be an agreement. This is what I've talked about. And not only that, but you have to think about the free agency of the Ukrainian regime, the free agency of Europe, the free agency of the United States, and the free agency of Russia. It's just too many moving parts, right? This will not be resolved in a very simple way, as Trump had talked about. I don't think anybody really ever believed that was possible. He was going to give it a try, though. The burden of proof is on the positive claim, not the negative. They have to show North Koreans are there. Until then, there are no North Koreans in Kursk. No, that's dumb. That's dumb. I mean, you can't confidently say there are no North Koreans in Kursk. That's just you could say there are probably no North Koreans in Kursk, but to be absolute like that is ridiculous. I don't think that's the smart position to take. All right, let's see. We are not happy, of course, with the proposals made by members of the Trump team to postpone Ukraine's admission to NATO for 20 years. They want Ukraine and NATO never, and to station British and European peacekeeping forces in Ukraine. So this is not a peace deal. This is another way to freeze the conflict, right? Freeze the conflict, get NATO troops on the ground in Ukraine, which creates a tripwire basically for the Russians. They're going to be much more careful about how they approach the situation because there's peacekeepers now, And then they're going to rearm Ukraine and get them ready again, and it's going to be the exact same thing. Russia is not going to allow that to happen, and if they do, it's a complete mistake, right? I think they completely understand this at this point, and I think the Russians fully understand that they're in a position of strength when it comes to the conflict in Ukraine. All right. I have one more article that I want to share. All right, here we go. Russian gas set to stop flowing through Ukraine. The transit deal due to expire with no follow-up agreement on flows to Central Europe. So we had reports of Zelensky coming out and basically saying that he was going to prohibit the new signing of agreements that would allow gas to flow through Ukraine. Slovakia and Hungary have both come out and said that they will stop providing electricity to Ukraine if Ukraine does not allow the gas to flow through the pipelines that run through their country. This is a huge deal for European economies. The gas is expensive right now for Europe, and it is the height of the gas period, gas usage period. So they need this gas. They need it to be affordable. And if Ukraine stops this, it could bump gas prices by something like 5% in Europe, which is going to be devastating for the European economies. And this is just Zelensky now blackmailing Europe at a crucial time for their economies to gain more support and to get them to move further away from Putin potentially. Slovakia and Hungary have both come out and said that they will stop providing energy to Ukraine, which is a major chunk of their energy imports, which they are heavily reliant on now. Poland has said that they will make it up, but that is going to negatively impact the Polish economy significantly. So I don't know if this is going to go through. I wouldn't doubt it. The U.S. desperately wants Europe off Russian oil. They want Europe on American oil, and that's good for America, right? Keep the Europeans reliant on them. Keep Germany down, and everybody subservient in Europe. It makes perfect sense. So I'll read this just a little bit. Russian gas flows through Ukraine are set to stop on Wednesday when a transit deal between the two countries expires in the wake of Moscow's full-scale invasion. The pipeline was one of the last two routes still carrying Russian gas to Europe, nearly 3 years into the full-scale war, in case you missed it the first time. EU countries will lose about 5% of gas imports in the middle of winter, while traders had long expected flows to stop. The end of the pipeline route through Ukraine will affect Europe's gas balance at a time when demand for heating is high. Slovakia is the country most affected. While one would assume that losing those volumes is priced in, a strong upward price response initially isn't out of the question, said Adolfo Spanger. So basically, Zelensky is out of options. He is now blackmailing Europe to try to force these countries further apart. And these two countries, Slovakia and Hungary, have responded with great frustration at this and have threatened to reduce Ukraine's electricity imports. So sort of a internal battle, internal struggle going on. All right, guys. That is actually all I have for you today. That is 39 minutes of updates and articles. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and throw them up now. I'll spend a little time answering them, and then we'll get out of here. Do you think Zelensky is cool? I think Zelensky has done more than his personality, persona, and charisma should have ever let him to do. He was a successful actor in Ukraine, became president, is now a dictator, and will forever be remembered in this little chunk of history. And I think that he is punching above his weight class significantly. So cool in that regard. Not cool, like not cool as in I would want to hang out with him or anything. Let's see. Do you think they will mobilize 18-year-olds and win? I think the time to do that has already passed. If they do it now, it'll just be a desperation move, and it'll turn out much worse than it would have if they would have done it 6 months ago. I don't think that is domestically possible for Zelensky. I think that will be the end of this entire charade, and I don't see it happening. It could happen. The West is pushing very hard for it because they understand the acute manpower shortage that Ukraine is facing, although drafting that age group is not going to help that acute manpower shortage, and the morale of those recruits is going to be absolutely zero. So I wouldn't if I were them, but desperate times. Do you still use deep state maps? Not really. They're now they got the call, bro. They got the call from the old Secret Service in Ukraine, the intelligence service, and now they update super late and like 2 days behind, and the updates are minimal and not anything that hasn't been geolocated 24 hours previously. So they either got completely taken over, or they're following the rules now like good little boys. So that's the situation. You missed the RU Oskal bridgehead updates? I don't think I did. I think that I got them. Let's see. Up here? These ones? Oh, I missed this one. Oh, small Russian advance into Revolko up here. I didn't even see this one. Good call, bro. Good call. Just a further expansion of this bridgehead. Good looking. What do you make of Willie OM suggesting North Korean soldiers are likely deployed in limited numbers as engineers and artillerymen on North Korean SPGs, but not as wave infantry? That would make sense because we've seen a ton of North Korean artillery coming across the border. That would make sense, and that would be a very logical thing for North Korea to do to hone their skills in combat with their artillery crews. I think that's very smart. Learning from the most experienced artillery crews in the world would be a good call, I would say. Question. Did Trump pick Kellogg because he doesn't know any better, or is it a strategic choice? Sort of a bad cop, and Trump wants to play the good cop himself? No, I think that Trump trusts Kellogg. I think that a lot of Trump's picks this year he's surrounding people who will go to war with him if the deep state comes after him again and does their normal thing that they've been doing to him for the last 8 years. He's in a very defensive position, and he's putting up all of he's closing the shutters, and he's getting people around him who are not going to betray him in the way that his previous administration did. So I don't think it has so much to do with that. I think that they have sort of aligning viewpoints on things. And maybe a little good cop, bad cop. But I think Trump wants to be good cop, bad cop himself. Russia's already losing. They just need to go home. Okay. I guess you missed the whole first 40 minutes of this live stream. Goofy, guys. You're goofy. Let's see. Was there anything else that I wanted to talk about here? Let me just go to my Twitter page, and I'm going to just look real quick. I feel like there was something I was going to discuss. What was it, though? What was it? Oh, we've seen a heavy increase. I talked about this a little while ago. Ukrainians basically using everything that they have left for, to try to escalate the situation. Ukrainians are using a lot of HIMARS, a lot of drones. We recently saw a surface drones in the Black Sea take down an Mi-8 helicopter with a R-73 air-to-air missile that was positioned on the surface drone. So that's interesting. We are also seeing heavy Russian Iskander strikes on Kiev, which is a very big deal. We don't necessarily know what's being hit. The censorship is through the roof right now in Ukraine, so we didn't get any videos from the Christmas Day strike, except at a TPP. And we got one Iskander landing on top of a building that was claimed to be an intelligence facility. So I don't know. I don't know what they're hitting, but they're launching 6, Iskanders at a time at high value targets in Kiev, and we don't ever know what they hit. So maybe they hit nothing, but I doubt it. Yeah. Interesting how people with Ukrainian flags also fly Israeli flags. Yeah, because it's kind of it's the narrative, right? It's the pro-Western narrative. If you can't be pro-Ukrainian and anti-Israeli, because that's the U.S. narrative, right? That's how that's the good guys to us. It really doesn't make sense, and it's the same as like Russians being like super upset about Israeli territorial expansion. I can understand being upset about Israeli, like the stuff going on in Gaza. I don't think that's not necessary. That's a genocide. That's how I see that. But like into Syrian stuff, like you cannot like it, but I mean, you can't like say it's like against international law or anything like that when the Russians are doing the exact same thing. I mean, it's very similar. Zelensky is reenacting the Tripartite War. Paraguay lost 3/4 of all men. Yeah, that's it's rough to watch, honestly, and the stories that I'm now getting are much like the stories we're hearing are now much worse. I was actually going to go look for a Rob Lee post that I retweeted, and I was going to read it to you guys because it just kind of perfectly exemplifies how the situation is looking for the Ukrainians, and this comes from Ukrainian soldiers. So. Yeah, here we go. But most Ukrainian military personnel acknowledge that the soldier shortages are now just as critical as the weapons deficits. So acute weapons and manpower shortages is not a winning combination. Some specialized jobs in the 33rd Brigade, which such as drivers for armored personnel carriers, were, quote, down to just one person in a battalion, soldiers said, complicating logistics to transport troops safely back and forth from trench positions. Do we even have infantry, question mark, said 37-year-old Denny's, a drone operator. It's down to a couple of guys, and they're over 50 years old. What are they going to do? That's pretty crazy, right? Why? So is it when I switch my thing that goes out? Don't know why. All right. Anyway, back to this. Felix, 39, who is responsible for providing logistics and moral support for his unit, moral support, said fighters are simply exhausted. He hoped Trump's January inauguration would mark a turning point in which a turning point in the war towards negotiations, because it could provide soldiers with a much needed break. It can't go on like this, Felix said. we're withdrawing and they're pushing further and further. What kind of victory will happen if our officials can't put an end to it? Maybe Mr. Trump can. I mean, that is depressing. And that comes from Rob Lee, who is not a pro-Russian. This is Ukrainian soldiers talking about it. And if you're going to deny this reality, you're the least pro-Ukrainian person I've ever talked to. And it's sad. Happy New Year's, everyone. If it's your New Year's, I still have like 9 hours until New Year's. So we're chilling on it. Any more questions, guys? Go ahead and get some questions in. If not, we will wrap it up there. No questions? Oh, Dumpf, you just got here. It's over. It's over, buddy. I was just about to... What color socks am I wearing? I'm not wearing socks, homie. I'm in my own house. All right. Predictions for 2025. I think that this war is going to turn into something very, very different, very sad, and not how people probably envision this war ending. It's going to be different and difficult. And the reality on the backside is not going to be clear or pleasant for either side, I don't think. I think both sides are overly invested now, and one side has to come out the victor. Let's see. Is there any new info on the 18-year-old draft age in Ukraine? I saw dudes talking about it. The Rada, the parliament in Ukraine, was going to vote this month on reducing the age of mobilization to 18. Zelensky has asked them to delay it. So I really don't think that they're in a position where they want to do that. Scott, got a real job yet? What do you mean by real job? If I make more money doing this than you make doing what you do, is it a real job? What if I have a real job where I make more money than you, and then I also make more money than you doing this? Do I have two real jobs, and is your job real? Something to think about. Why? They're not good. If you're like I have to ignore the trolls, it's because they're getting to you. These people are absolutely dog shit at this. I can do this all day. I can sit here, and anybody who disagrees with me, that's fine. Present your argument with evidence and reason, and I'll listen to it. And I'm very open-minded. If you come in here and do that stuff, no, I'm going to dumpster on you because it's what I do, and it's fun. I love to entertain trolls. It makes my whole day, dude. Like, I love Twitter so much. And people are always like, oh, I hate Twitter. I am so good at it. I'm so good at putting people down, which is a really bad thing to say. But, when they come at you aggressive and they think that they can intimidate you on the internet or anything like that, no, I just do not give a shit. And I'm really good at dealing with it. What was the topic? I don't know, bro. If you don't like the West, who said I don't like the West? I don't like the West's foreign policy. I live in America. I want America to be the best country in the world and be doing the right things. Ooh, like an American citizen. Jesus, man. People are dumb as hell. No. What you want me to just sit here and just grovel and be a glutton and be like happy about it? No, I want my country to be doing the right things. If my country's not doing the right things, if money's not going where it's supposed to go, if the government is screwing over the people, I'm going to talk about it. And that's what I do every day. And you don't like that, and that's fine. But thank you for tuning into my show and supporting me and making me more money. I appreciate it. It's the best part about my trolls is that they actively help me. That's the best part. All right, guys. I'm gonna wrap it up there. An hour. Tune in tomorrow for the late stream. Always do the late streams on Wednesday. I'm sure we'll have more to talk about. The lines are moving quick. So tune in to that if you guys are able to. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Please go check out my Telegram and Twitter. You will find updates of when I go live there. Please also subscribe and click that like button. Comment if you so please. And I have an announcement. I will be going on the Duran on the 2nd, so be on the lookout for that episode as well. Thank you guys so much. I will see you in the new year. I love you all. If it is already New Year's for you, start the New Year's off right and get absolutely plastered. Take care, everybody. Good night.